All right, Freight Broker 101 Training for Beginners, Friday session, July 30th. Okay, and Marcia, you just went through this process, correct?
Yes.
So give us some information about it. You literally, and other people I think are getting ready to apply for it. Although Mr. Rose, I think, is doing. I think I saw a picture of a broker and carrier, but Ms. Evans, starting with you.
You said, okay, I couldn't tell you because I did all of it. But what we went over, Charles, it helps. Because when you showed me like on section 3, 4, skip,
Right.
it helped when I went back in to do it. Because you put yourself in the mind like, okay, well, I'm gonna have carriers doing this, so are they gonna do this load? This is for someone fresh. They would think that they need to say, oh, I'm gonna haul this, I'm gonna haul that. That's
Right.
what was messing us up. So then when we figured out, no, you don't put anything, you just skip all those sections. I'm sorry.
Right. So when you decide that you want to be a freight broker and you want to apply for your authority, you go to the fmcsa.dot.gov website and you can register through what's called the Unified Registration System, the URS, set up a username and password, and go from there. So let me see, Rebecca Collette, just making sure. Ms. Collette, are you? Okay, well, anyway. So when you go to the website, you are going to create an account because you're logging in and you're doing it online. And let's say you start the process and you couldn't finish it all the way. It takes about a half an hour, right? Yeah. Hey, Ali. So
hey, how are you? How are you?
Okay, how are you? So it takes about a half an hour to do it all the way, but there's certain things that you skip over depending on how you apply, if you're applying for a motor carrier or a broker. So this is the Op1 form, which is dealing with the application for a motor property carrier and a broker authority. So we are brokers, right? We are applying under the broker qualifications, right? So the Op1 form is used to, you can either do it online or you can send it in the mail. If you send it by mail, it's going to take an extra 4 weeks longer for them to receive and process. If you do it online, it's a little bit quicker, just so you know, okay? So this is the Op1 form. If you read through this, it'll give you information about it. So overview of operating authority, and depending on the type of business operation, whether you are, so people who need authorities, motor carriers, brokers, freight forwarders, shippers, vehicle registrant, and cargo tank facilities. So you meet the qualifier as a motor carrier. As a broker. So then you would be required, and what will be transported. So you're applying for the operation, you're doing business operation as a broker, and will be transported, which is you're transporting property. Some people are doing hazardous materials, some people are doing passengers. As brokers, you're not transporting the property, you're not taking possession of the freight, but you are arranging for the transport of it by getting it from shippers and contracting with carriers, and you're the go-between person. Does everybody understand that part? Okay. So you are required to register for both interstate authority, which is the Op1 form series, or Op2, and the DOT, the MCS 150. So you get an MC and DOT as a broker, you get an MC DOT as a motor carrier, okay? The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration enforces compliance with the Federal Motor Carriers safety regulations. So the FMCSA enforces compliance through and with the FMCSR. All right, and the hazardous material regulation. So this paragraph right here, all of that governs financial and safety responsibilities. Okay, so, and then who needs the authority? So we're gonna go through here. How do you apply? You can either apply online or by mail. If you apply online, it's quicker, obviously. If you apply by mail, they tell you where to send the information. What's the cost? Depending on how many types of authorities you apply for, the cost is $300 per, okay? $300 per. So, and we have the different types right here. You guys qualify under number 5, broker of property except household goods. Am I sharing my screen? Can you guys see the screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay.
Yes.
So you are a broker. So there's only 2 types of authority for brokers: broker of property except household goods, and then broker of household goods. Okay, you guys are broker of property except household goods, number 5. And that's filled out via the form OP-1. The form OP-1P are for motor carriers who are passenger type, common and contract carriers of passengers. So you have common and contract carriers of property, common and contract carriers of household goods. These are motor carriers. And then you have brokers of property and household goods. And then you have international, they call them US-based enterprise carriers of international cargo. That's like Agility. They do international freight, okay? So what are the steps? So for those of you who are—
Charles,
Yes.
real quick. So if I was for the dispatch, would it be the motor, the one
dispatching? So that's a good question. None of this applies if you are trying to be an independent freight dispatcher. You do not need to apply for anything. You do not need to fill out a form or nothing. You do not need an authority to be a dispatching company, an independent freight dispatcher. It is not required. You do not need an authority. All you need is your business license, an EIN connected to that business, that entity, and then a dispatcher agreement profile, contract with the drivers, software, load boards, things like that. But there is no authority required to be an independent dispatcher. You're not governed by the FMCSA or anything. Go ahead, Jeff.
So my question is, let's say I was applying for this OP1 and I also had assets. So I want to apply as a broker, but I also have assets. So would that be OP1 for me and then an OP1 for each of my assets, or how would that work?
It would, right. So you would have a broker side and then you would have a trucking side, 2 separate entities, and the trucking side would run under the authority, under the brokerage as an asset. But you would apply for the broker of property, and then you will apply for either a common or contract carrier of property except household goods. So you would, for your trucking side, your assets, you would be either a motor common carrier, probably a common carrier, because later on we're going to define what common carriers and what contract carriers are in this OP1 form. You'll see the definition, so you'll be able to get a clearer understanding of what they are. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So what are the steps in getting an operating authority? Okay. So right here though, these little notes: FMCSA regulations prevents us from giving applicants refunds for applying because it's a one-time non-refundable fee, $300. Each type of operating authority requires an additional fee of $300. So every time you apply for what category, it's going to be $300, okay? What are the steps? Step 1, applicant submits OP-1 and or OP-1P and or OP-1FF. P is passenger, FF is freight forwarder, okay? CP right here, form OP1-1P for passenger. These are motor carriers, right? Remember, we're brokers, right? Number 5, we're brokers. Number 5 or 6, but us specifically, we are number 5, brokers of property except household goods. So you may want to write that down. All right, so that's the first step. The second step, applicant. So you apply by filling out and submitting the OP1 form if you do it correctly, right? So that's step 1. Step 2, the applicant receives MC, the MC number and DOT or FF number. Okay. Okay, so hold on 1 second, guys. Okay, so step 1 again, the applicant submits the OP1, which is in our case, OP-1. Hey, Ms. Holmes.
How you doing today?
Okay, are you the one I just sent the email to with the link?
I'm not sure what you did earlier. I'm gonna have to change over to my computer. I'm having problems getting on with my computer. It shouldn't have had me reset my password and all of that,
But you can see us now, see the screen and everything, correct?
I can, but I'm gonna change over to my computer, so you may have to let me in again.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, so the steps in getting the authority. Step 1, you fill out the OP1 form, the OP-1, as either a motor carrier, in our case, a freight broker of property except household goods. You can do OP-1 / parentheses P, which are passengers, or FF, freight forwarders. You don't have to worry about those two. You are brokers, so you don't even qualify in those, right? Step 2, you receive, your applicant receives the MC number or the freight forwarder number. It's not active. You just receive it, right? You just receive it. You still cannot operate as a broker yet, right? So here's step 3. There is a 10-day protest. Someone can protest the fact that you are applying for this authority, saying, hey, they're not qualified to be a broker. Why are they applying it? And then there's an adjudication period. If you receive from the FMCSA a notice that someone has protested your the fact that you are applying for authority, you can adjudicate that. You can challenge that, right? But usually it doesn't happen. It's just, that's just the process. Step 4, now insurance comes in. In the case of motor carriers, the insurance is insurance companies. When you as a motor carrier get your insurance, like your liability and your cargo insurance, you go through, let's say, Progressive. Progressive, once you get a policy with Progressive files with the FMCSA the forms for insurance. Okay, and there's a certain form that they file for insurance, and we'll go over that in a second. In the case of brokers, it is your bond. So your bond is like the insurance in your case. So the bond companies will file for the file the forms with the FMCSA, letting the FMCSA know that you have a bond so they can finish the process. Okay. And then step 5, either you or a representative of you or a process agent files what's called a blanket of coverage or BOC-3 form with the FMCSA, letting them know that you have a process server, someone who can serve paperwork in the case of someone files a claim or a lawsuit. So with the BOC-3, and we'll go into that a little bit further too, you can act as your own process server in your domicile state. And you need a process server for every state, for the state that you live in and every state that you're going to be conducting contracts as a broker in with shippers, okay? And then step 6, the applicant begins operations after receiving either a certificate in the case of a carrier, which is the MC authority certificate, a letter, a permit in the case of the freight forwarders, or a license in the case of brokers for operating authority. These are the steps, but let's get into a little bit more detail about it, okay? Any questions before we move into a little bit more detail about it? All right. So it's the OP1 form, so on and so forth. Just going through it. So step one, again, step one, you are applying. Most of the cases you want to do this online, okay? It's quick, it's quicker. If you do it through the mail, it's going to be an extra 4 weeks, right? Not sure if you want to go through that process. But right here, OP1, OP-1, operating authority for either a motor carrier, and the category of motor carrier, again, are common property, contract property, common household goods, and contract household goods, okay? Number two is, and which is us, brokers. But you got two types of brokers, broker of property or broker of household goods. You guys are brokers of property, okay? Brokers of property. All right. And then so after you apply and fill out the form and submit it with the $300, then you will get a letter, a grant letter, and an MC in your case of a broker and a motor carrier, and an FF in the case of a freight forwarder. You'll get that number. Applicant receives a grant letter after FMCSA processes and accepts the operating authority application, right? So you get it. Somebody's calling me and I'm in class. I don't answer the phone, I'm in class. And they don't seem to in training and in training. There. So you get the grant letter, the MC letter, but it's not active. You just get the number. And that number can be used to reference to the insurance companies in the case of the bond, and to the process servers, the process BOC3 forms as well. They want to reference the MC number that was given to you as a broker before it becomes active, so they can substantiate when they approve either your bond and they and you file the process server. Okay, so now 10-day protest. Okay, at the same time that you get the letter not being active, not your bond or your broker authority becoming active. At the same time, you've processed, you filled out the OP1 form, you submitted it, you got the grant letter back. At the same time, from that time, right here it says, at the same time the grant letter is mailed. In other words, FMCSA send you the letter. Each company's application for an authority will be published in the FMCSA register. Let's go to the FMCSA register. So when they send out the letter saying that you got a number, but it's not active yet, they're going to also make a journal entry into their FMCSA register, letting people know that you're in the process of applying for an authority and if anyone wants to protest that, right? So going to go to licensing and insurance. And right here where it says the drop down FMCSA register, hit go, and the PDF format report. This is the FMCSA register. Okay. You guys see that?
Yes, we see it.
So you would see anything that changes, like name changes, transfers, licenses being revoked. Everything is documented in the FMCSA register of any happenings in the industry. Okay. Let's see. let this person know. Okay, so now we are in the section of the registry that fitness section, and then you have non-fitness. So the fitness section applies to motor, common, and contract carriers, motor contract carriers of passengers, motor common carriers of passengers, and motor carrier broker of general commodities except household goods. So this is right here. So right here where it says filed, that's the date filed. This is when you submit the OP1 form to the FMCSA. That same day, they make a journal entry in the register and they mail out to you the grant letter giving you the number. And now that's when the 10-day process starts for someone to protest the fact that you have filed to become a broker. Okay, that's the point I wanted to make there. All right. So, and it says it right here. At the same time, the grant letter is mailed. Each company's application for an operating authority will be published in the FMCSA register, which I just showed you. This publication initiates the 10 calendar day protest period during which any individual can file a protest with the FMCSA stating why a company should not be issued an authority. So if I'm challenging you and I found out that you are trying to be a broker and I say, well, this person don't qualify to be a broker. They don't know what they're doing. I'm gonna challenge you through writing the FMCSA, because I saw that today, July 30th, I looked in the registry, I seen a company that I know of that's submitting to be that's filed to be a freight broker. But I know they don't know what they're doing. So I'm going to challenge that with the FMCSA. So that's how that works. And FMCSA will accept protests sent by mail as long as they are postmarked by the last day of the protest period. So today is the 30th. I got 10 days to protest that. So let's say I waited to the 10th day or waited to the 8th day, but I put it in the mail and it got postmarked by the 9th day, maybe even the 10th day. I can still qualify to protest you because I'm still within that 10-day period. That's what that means. As long as it's postmarked by that 10-day period, I still can protest you. Okay, just to give you clarity on that. FMCSA will provide the applicant with information on the adjudication process if any protests are filed. So in other words, if your company, Ms. Holmes, if I challenge your company and the FMCSA gets a letter from me saying that I'm challenging the fact that you are applying for an authority, I got to send you, the FMCSA is going to send you paperwork saying, hey, somebody is protesting the fact that you become a broker. Here's the adjudication process. Here's how you handle that. And then these are the steps, okay? This rarely happens, but it's good to know, okay? It rarely happens, but it's good to know, all right? So during this protest, insurance companies and process agents can still file the necessary documents that they need in order to continue in the process of getting your broker authority active. Because the authority is not going to go active until the FMCSA receives the proper filings from the process agent in the form of the BOC3 and the insurance companies in the form of the insurance forms for motor carriers and in the form of the insurance forms for bonds for brokers. The forms for the bonds for brokers are called the BMC 84 form, which is the surety bond, or the BMC-85, which is the trust fund. Those are the two insurances types that the FMCSA receives, okay? So let me go through here and see. All right, so now insurance, speaking of which, let's roll into the insurance part of it. So we got the 10-day protest, we on step 4, insurance. So this step can begin anytime after the applicant receives an MC number. In the case of you guys, brokers, you're going to receive a grant letter with your MC number. Again, it is not active yet until your insurance is cleared with the FMCSA and your process server is cleared with the FMCSA, okay? This step began anytime after the applicant receives an MC number and is not dependent on being completed. An insurance company must file appropriate insurance form on behalf of the applicant within 90 days of the date the application for authority was published in the FMCSA register. So whatever date filed, it says in the register right here, insurance and probably process agent forms have 90 days from that date to file. Now the FMCSA is going to let you know after 20 days that, hey, it's been 20 days. What are you guys doing? You know, so, okay. And it says right here, otherwise the application for authority will be dismissed and the application fee will not be refunded. So in other words, after 90 days, if you file for an authority and after 90 days, you still don't have insurance or a process form, or I should say the FMCSA haven't received any filings of insurance or any filings of the process agent, which is the BLC3. And in the case of insurance, they haven't received the BMC 84 or 85, depending on which bond type you got, surety bond or trust fund. After 90 days, that application is null and void and you just lost $300, okay? The applicant will receive a warning letter about the 90-day deadline if FMCSA has not received the required documentation within 20 days. So in other words, you have 90 days to complete it, but after 20 days, the FMCSA is saying, hey man, what's going on? You still going through this process? You good? You know, in other words, so after you're going to receive a warning letter. Okay, it's been 20 days. You got 70 more days to go. What are you doing? Okay, any questions on that so far? No questions? Okay. These notes. Applicants may not file insurance forms on their own behalf. You can't file your own insurance as you're applying to be a broker. The insurance companies, they have to get it from the insurance companies. Therefore, FMCSA does not provide insurance forms to applicants. The insurance companies, in the case of the carriers, and the bond companies, in the case of the brokers, know how to submit these forms to the FMCSA, letting them know that you've met the qualifications for insurance. The applicants cannot do it, and the FMCSA says so, okay? An authorized representative from the home or branch office of an insurance company must file the required insurance form on the applicant's behalf. And then it says it here, to minimize processing delays, the FMCSA recommends filing forms electronically as opposed to mailing them in. If you decide to mail them in, that's an extra 4-week longer process, okay? It's the applicant's responsibility, your responsibility as the person who are applying to be the broker. It's your responsibility to follow up with the insurance company to verify that the FMCSA has received and approved the required insurance form. But that's common sense though, right? If I'm becoming a broker and I got my insurance company, the bond company, or if I'm a motor carrier, the insurance company, Progressive, it's my job to follow up with the insurance company. Hey man, did you guys submit the forms to the FMCSA? Yeah, we did that a couple of days ago. Then I will call next FMCSA to verify, hey guys, did you receive the necessary forms from Progressive in the case of a motor carrier submission, or from Bond Solutions in the case of a bond for a broker? You want to make sure that you're on top of that stuff, because this is, you know, you're trying to make sure that the process is running smoothly for you, okay? So here are the forms, right? So in the case of motor carriers, so we're brokers, so I'm gonna cover brokers first, the last two. So the form BMC-84 is the surety bond. And then the form BMC-85 is the trust fund. The bond companies know which forms to submit based on which form type you select, which bond type you select, whether it's a trust fund or a surety bond. Okay. In the case of carriers, motor carriers, which we are not, but I'm just going to mention it anyway, the BMC-91 or BMC-91X is proof of bodily injury and property damage insurance. That's liability. So carriers have liability insurance of 1 million. It covers BI and PD, bodily injury and property damage. The insurance companies file the form BMC-91 or BMC-91X on behalf of the carriers when they go to Progressive and they get the proper insurance coverage. And then in the case of cargo liability insurance, the BMC-34 is proof of that. And the same insurance company on the behalf of the motor carrier files that, okay? Any questions there? Okay. And then it has something called self-insured. If you can insure yourself, you can even qualify for that, the BMC-40, applying for authority to self-insure. If you have adequate tangible net worth that will cover liability claims in the case of a loss, you can go for self-insurance. Most people don't go this, you don't have liquid assets like that, right? No liquid cash or net worth is large enough where you can self-insure yourself, but it's there just in case, okay? Step 5, the process agent, okay, which is the BOC-3. But this step can begin anytime, again, like the insurance, it can begin anytime after the applicant receives that letter, that grant letter, when they submitted the OP1 form initially and paid that $300 to start the process. They can start this process of the process agent, okay? FMCSA requires each applicant for operating authority, in our case broker, to designate a process agent in every state in which it conducts business or maintains an office, okay? So typically you're gonna be maintaining an office in one state beginning, right? You probably work from home, but in each state you conduct business, in other words, you get contracts with shippers, then you are required to have a process agent or process server in that state, okay? A process agent is a representative upon whom court papers may be served in any legal proceeding brought against a motor carrier, broker, or freight forwarder, okay? In the case of brokers and freight forwarders and you guys are gonna be brokers who will not operate commercial motor vehicles, CMWs, right? So you're gonna qualify under this header here. So for brokers, you must designate a process agent in each state in which you maintain an office or establish contracts. Contracts with who? Shippers, your customers. And contracts probably more than likely with the motor carriers, because motor carriers can bring claims against you, legal proceedings, as well as shippers, okay? And you can act as your own process agent in the state in which you maintain the physical office, which is probably out of your house, or a brick and mortar. PO boxes does not qualify for physical office, according to the FMCSA, okay? So either the applicant or process agent on behalf of the applicant can file form BOC-3, which is the designation of process agents, with the FMCSA. BOC stands for blanket of coverage or blanket of companies. Okay, that's the form that's used to file a process agent. And again, this form also must be filed within 90 days of the date of application for the authority was published in the FMCSA register. So once the FMCSA gets the submitted OP1 form in the beginning, like we did, they put a journal entry in the registry. From that file date, the 90-day grace period starts for the insurance, for the BOC-3. Okay. Any questions there for the process agent? Now we got step 6, certificate, permit, or license of operating authority. So after the FMCSA has approved the application, the OP1 form has approved the insurance. In the case of the motor carrier, it is what? Liability and cargo. In the case of the broker, it's either the surety bond or the trust fund. And process agent filings, they approved the BOC3, and the protest period has ended without any protest. Applicants are issued operating authority in the form of a certificate for the motor carrier, permit for the freight forwarder, or license for the broker. Okay, so whichever way you applied, in our case, the broker, you are going to get a license to be a broker. After the whole process is done, your application was good, your insurance was good, process server was good, nobody protested, right? You will get your broker license, right? So applicants, you may not begin operations until this official record of authority is received by mail. So you get your grant number in the mail in the beginning when you submitted your OP1 form, but you cannot do operations as a broker until you get your broker license in the mail, which says that everything has been approved. The application again, insurance, process, agent, and no protest. Does everybody understand that? Everybody understands that? Okay, thumbs up to Jeff. Okay, so how to complete the OP1 form. So how to complete it now? Okay. So right here, how to complete it. Back to section 1, how do you complete it, right? So you go to the OP1 form and you say, okay, I want to fill this out. So let's go and fill it out. Here's the actual OP1 form right here, the actual OP1 form, the real section 1, OP-1. Question 1, do you now have authority from or an application being processed by the FMCSA, FHWA, OMCS, or ICC? Well, if you're applying for the very first time, no. So you will check no there, okay? Legal business name. What is your legal business name that you are, let me pick on someone. Let's say Jeff LaFleur's brokerage, right? And then doing business as, if it's different from if it's the same as the legal name, leave the doing business line blank. If it's different, you put the doing business as name on that line. It's as simple as that, okay? And then your principal place. So we're getting into where Marsha, I think Marsha, you guys were at this point, right? You were doing this process. Okay, so principal place of business. Yes. Principal place of business, no PO box, street address, city, state, zip, telephone, and fax. And then the mailing address. If it's the same as the principal address, you click there, it'll automatically populate. If it's different, then you would put a different number. Any representative, the person who can respond to inquiries. The main representative, who's the person running the business, the brokerage, we'll say Marsha Evans, and then the title, owner, relationship to the applicant, CEO, whatever, right? So street address, city, state, and zip, right? US DOT number. Right now you don't have one because you're doing the form, so you haven't received one. So you leave that blank. You don't have one yet. You're actually filling out the form. And then form of business. If it's an LLC or corporation, number 25 gets dotted, and then state of corporation, Texas, wherever you are, legal name of owner, legal name of each partner, right? If it's a partner, if it's a sole proprietor, legal name of owner. If it's a corporation or LLC, the state of incorporation, okay? And that's it for section 1. Section 2, type of authority. If you put more than one type of authority, you are going to pay $300 times the number of checks that you checked in this box. So if you put 2 or 3, if you put 3, that's 300 times 3, that's $900. But you're only applying for one type of operating authority at this time. And that is, which one is that on this list right here? Which one is that?
Broker of property except household goods.
Broker of property except household goods. So let's scroll back up and define what broker of property except household goods is. Right here, broker of property except household goods. An individual, partnership, or corporation that receives payments for arranging the transportation of property except household goods belonging to others by using an authorized motor carrier. A broker, keep this in mind, a broker does not assume responsibility for the property and never takes possession of that. Did you guys know that?
Nope.
A broker does not assume responsibility for the property and never takes possession of it. Okay? You are a broker, you are a middleman. You are brokering the shipper's property through the motor carrier, and you're getting paid a commission for that, essentially, margins, all right? But that's what that means, right? So here are some other definitions of the motor carrier type, motor carriers. So a motor common carrier of property, common carrier, motor common carrier, an authorized for-hire motor carrier that transports regulated commodities, except household goods, for the general public in exchange for payment that is based on published tariff rates, okay? Motor common carriers of property except household goods must file proof of both liability, which is bodily injury and property damage, and cargo insurance with the FMCSA in order to obtain interstate authority. So that's common carrier. So what is if that's common carrier, then what's contract carrier? Motor contract carrier of property except household goods, which are the two common ones, is an authorized for-hire motor carrier that transports regulated commodities, same definition, except household goods, but for specific customers in exchange for payment that is based on negotiated contracts. So there's a different definition, general public, specific customers, right? Motor contract carriers of property except household goods must file proof of public liability insurance with the FMCSA in order to gain interstate operating authority. It says here, cargo insurance is not required. So going back to the dispatching side, I tell my students to go after common and contract. I'm only going to tell them now, because of the definition, to only go after common carriers according to the FMCSA, because common carriers require both liability and cargo insurance. Cargo insurance is to insure the freight on the trailer. Cargo, right? The cargo, freight. So a motor contract carrier of property except household goods cannot be a motor common carrier of property except household goods. So a contract carrier cannot be a common carrier without applying for additional motor common carrier operating authority and filing proof of cargo with the cargo insurance with the FMCSA. So contract carrier cannot be a common carrier until they get cargo insurance. So you can, if you want to be a contract carrier, all you need is liability. But if you want to be a common carrier, you got to have liability and cargo. Okay, but back to the broker's definition right there. Brokers, again, we arrange for the transportation of property. Okay, individuals, partnerships, and corporations that receive payments for arranging for the transportation of property belonging to others, shippers, by using authorized motor carriers, truck drivers. So that definition is right there, is plain as day in front of us, right? That's the definition of a broker of property except household goods. We arrange for the transportation of freight for payment belonging to others, the shippers, through others, the motor carriers. okay? And we do not assume responsibility of the property, nor do we take possession of it. All right, is that cool? Is that clear? Everybody got that one, right? Okay, so we were on step 2, we selected that. Step 3, the insurance in regards to the brokers. So if you're filling out the OP1 and you get to section 3, you can skip this because it says applicants that will operate commercial vehicles must complete this section. You are brokers, you would not be operating commercial motor vehicle. So you skip this section, insurance, it doesn't apply to you. Your insurance or your bond from a broker is going to be filed by the bond companies through either the BMC 84 or the BMC 85, and it's going to be submitted to the FMCSA through the bond companies. So you don't have to provide the information here. So you can skip section 3. You can skip section 4 for brokers. If you're applying for a broker of property except household goods, because this is for vehicle operating applicants only. We are brokers, so we skip section 4. Section 5, we have no affiliations because we are filling out this form for the very first time. So you could say NA or non-affiliates or no affiliates in the box here, right? So it says here, affiliations, disclose any relationships you have or have had with any other FMCSA regulated entities, right? Within the past 3 years. Well, if you're filling this out for the first time to be a broker, you have no affiliations. So none, NA, non-affiliations, okay? That's step 5. So we skip 3, we skip 4. So see how easy it's becoming to fill out this OP1 form as it relates to brokers, right? So step 6, we skip step 6 because you are not a broker of household goods, you are a broker of property. Household goods brokers or household good carriers require special certifications, and you are not neither one of those. So you skip section 6. So we've skipped about 4 sections so far, right? 6, 5, 4, and 3. Right? We've skipped. So see how easier it's becoming to fill out the OP1 form. So I just want to make sure that no one's having difficulty with the OP1 form if you're going to fill it out for the very first time, right? From a broker's perspective. Now with carriers, it's a little bit different. There's some extra things you got to know. But there's parts that you skip as a carrier too. Like you're going to skip household goods because you're not going to be a carrier of household, not going to be a household carrier. So household goods carrier. Section 7, scope of operating authority. So only applicants requesting operating authority as a motor carrier of household goods must complete this section. So you skip section 7 because you are not requesting an operating authority as a motor contract carrier of household goods. You are applying for a broker of property except household goods. So you skip section 7. Look, well, this is getting easy, right? Section 8, you only got a few more things now. Section 8 of the OP-1 form is your applicant's oath, basically saying everything that I'm saying is true under the laws of perjury, blah, 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 right? So you verify this by printing your name here, verify under the penalty of perjury, under the laws of the United States, that all the information is true, so on and so forth, yada, 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 according to the US code this and the US code that, 5 years, $10,000 fine if I'm telling a lie, okay? Basically read through that, and then you sign your title and the date, okay? Simple. Payments, how are you going to pay it? Number of boxes that you checked in section 2 times $300 is your total amount due. So in section 2, however many boxes you checked as a type of authority, and we only checked 1, broker of property, so 1 times 300, right, is only $300. And then select the payment method, money order, credit card, however that's done, and then you send it in, you pay it. The rest is it. This is it. That is it. That is the OP1 form, the OP-1 form. Not hard whatsoever. Once you read through and understand it and get a grasp, here's the steps. That's step one, and the steps in step one, okay? That is how you apply to be a broker of property except household goods, right? Marsha, you have a question?
No, I was just saying yes.
So yeah, so now the OP1 form is filled out. Once it gets submitted, you submit the payment and it gets submitted. FMCSA will receive it, and then they will send out the grant letter and then they will send out the grant letter giving you an MC number. At the same time, they will record a journal entry into their register under the category, file date, the applicant, the representative, and the number, whatever number. You're gonna have an MC number, okay? And let's go up to the non-fitness section, which is right here. Household goods, property broker, that's not you. So you're fitness, you're under the fitness section, which is the broker of general commodities. Okay, so once you submit the OP1 form, you pay $300. FMCSA process that, receives it, everything's good, no errors on it. They're going to issue you a grant letter with your MC number, and again, record it into their register. And then the rest of the process in those steps begin. Step 2, you got the letter. Step 3, the 10-day protest from the date that they put it in the register saying that this person has filed on this day to be a broker. You have anyone has 10 days to protest it. And then same thing, step 4, from the date that has been entered into the register, the insurance companies and the BOC3, the process server companies, have 90 days to file their necessary forms on your behalf to the FMCSA to let them know that your insurance is good and then your process server is good, right? And then once the application is done already, the protest was cool, the insurance and the BOC3 comes back, then you get your broker license, and now you can operate as a broker and it's official. Okay, that's how that works. 30 minutes or less. Okay, that's how that works. I wanted to go over that a little bit tonight, but that's how that works. Break it down a little bit. And I'm going to be putting some links and contact numbers from the FMCSA website into the back office so you guys can get to things quicker on here. Some of these special links so you can check the status of yours by going to the quick reference area. Like right here, go to registration, applying online, checking the status of things, type of authority, all that stuff, okay? Like the 10-day period to view the register, go here, click that right there, hit continue. And then you just go to the register, your blanket of companies, BOC3 is blanket company, BOC3 filings, things of that nature. So, okay. So everything is at your fingertips, FMCSA register. So I'll go back, licensing and insurance. Okay. Any questions?
No.
The BOC3 is something separate, so I would have to contact a third party to get that filed, or I could file it myself.
No, so remember, I just in the BOC3 section, I read that the applicant, when it comes to insurance and the BOC3 or the process server, the applicants, you cannot file that with the FMCSA. The actual companies that represent those things have to file it. So with the BOC3, now you can represent yourself as a process server, a process agent, but the company will have to file the BOC-3 form with the FMCSA, letting them know that you are officially covered under, you have a process server for the state that you are in, as well as states that you are conducting contracts in with either shippers or carriers. Okay. The same thing with insurance. The applicant cannot file their own insurance with the FMCSA. They have to get an insurance company, whether on the motor carrier side with the insurance type, the BMC-91 and the BMC-34, I believe it. BMC 91 was the liability, and the 34, I believe it was the cargo. On the broker side, the type of insurance or the bond, if you will, surety bond or trust fund. Surety bond is the BMC 84, and the trust fund is the BMC 85. Filed by the bond companies. They have to file those forms and submit them to the FMCSA. Everything goes through the FMCSA for approval before you get that broker license, in the case of the broker license, okay? That's the process. So, and I just read that too. So you guys might want to read through here too, but it breaks it down. This is exactly what you need to do in the order that it needs to be done in order to meet the qualifications according to the FMCSA under DOT to have, to become a broker, a freight broker. So right here, yeah. So the form BMC 91 and BMC 34 for the cargo, okay? So, and then the process server right there. So again, the applicants cannot file their own process server BLC3 with the FMCSA, nor can they file their own insurance with the FMCSA, whether it's from a carrier's perspective or from a broker's perspective. That is why the FMCSA says we do not have those forms available for the applicants. It's because the entities that they need to get it through submits them. Okay, that's why. Okay, so we good there? So after you get your license, your broker license, okay, now what? I got a broker license. Then what does that mean? It means absolutely nothing if you don't start going after the shippers to get the contracts, to get the freight, the loads, the cargo, or going after the motor carriers to get them approved under your brokerage. So what are the steps involved in that? So you just cleared one major hurdle by becoming a licensed broker, a licensed logistics provider, a licensed person who arranges for the transportation of freight. That's very good. Kudos to you, right? Clap, 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 right? Kudos to you. But now what do? What is your back office infrastructure looks like? You know, do you have a TMS system? Do you have load boards? Do you have a computer, desktop, printer, fax, phone, website, things of that nature? What are your expenses involved as a beginner broker, right? Do you keep your revenue low? How much do you have to invest, right? So some people think that this is a part-time job. It is not. You can gradually work into it, of course, but when you are ready to fully commit to it, then you can say, okay, I need to itemize and structure it. You know, I got my authority now, I got a license now. Now I need to formulate my broker shipper packets and my broker carrier packets, right? As a broker, because remember, brokers have two customers, right? They have the shippers, that's their customer, and they have the carriers, the truck drivers, that's their customer. And there needs to be a balance between the two because one cannot work without the other. There's no way. You cannot broker freight if you don't have one or the other. You got to have both. You need shippers with the freight and you need carriers to move that freight. So if you got carriers without a shipper, you're not brokering. If you got shippers without carriers, you're not brokering. Simple as that, right? So now, how do you go after the shippers? What do you say? Where do you go after the shippers? What is your niche? What type of commodities are you targeting? Where do you live? What type of freight or what type of distribution centers are prevalent in your area? When I do a Google search, where am I at? Who are the manufacturers? Who are the distributors in that area? How do I set up meetings to go after them? How do I go after them cold call? What do I say? How do I get past the gatekeeper? All of these are some types of questions you will ask yourself. They're not hard questions to ask. It's just that you need to be aware that these are the types of questions, right? So if you call me as a shipper and you say, hey, I'm with ABC Brokerage, I want to move some of your freight. You know what I'm going to say to you? Well, if I don't hang up on you, I'm going to say, well, what do we move? You call me, you want to move some of my freight. What is our commodity? What is our commodity? What lanes do we move our freight in? So in other words, have you done your homework on the company? Have you Googled or looked up the company prior to calling them and gotten some baseline understanding of at least what they do, right? So and then also too, another thing, you have to understand the concept of supply chain logistics, right? There's a hierarchy in logistics, right? When you're dealing with shippers, going after the shippers, there's a hierarchy in logistics. Like raw materials, manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, retailers, and then the end user. Everybody follow that hierarchy? That's the supply chain. Logistics is just one component of the supply chain. You got warehousing, you got, all the other things in the supply chain, but logistics and transportation is just a component of the supply chain. So when goods are manufactured and shipped to the end user, and you go into a grocery store and purchase a product on the shelf, it went through the whole supply chain prior to getting to that position where you picked it up off the shelf and went and paid for it. There is a supply chain involved in that, right? It had to be made first, right? There was raw materials involved. Then there was a manufacturer who made it. Then there was a distributor who distributed. Then there was a wholesaler. Then there was a retailer, which is a storage that you're in, like Walmart's or Sam's Club or BJ's. Then there's the end user, the customer. So in each of those hierarchies, there is a potential for a customer for you, for a shipper for you to target, whether it's raw materials like the farmers are raw materials, right? They grow the products, potatoes, corn, right? And then that stuff is harvested and shipped, right? So trucks come to farms and ship out the harvested goods to the manufacturers where they can make canned goods like kerneled corn or whatever type of things that they're going to make from the corn. They can use it as ingredients and other things, right? So it's shipped from the farms to the manufacturers, then from the manufacturers to the distributors, which are the distribution centers, and then they're spread across the different wholesalers and then to different retailers. In all those cases, they have to get transported over the road by a truck. So in each of those cases, there is a potential in that process to get a customer, get a shipper, okay? So that's on your first customer side. That's the shipper side. What about your carrier? When you talk to the carriers from a broker's perspective, how are you going to present yourself as a broker? What are you going to say to them to convince them to say, hey, let me see your broker packet. Let me fill out the broker packet. And are you eligible for them to even go after? Because some carriers have what's called factory companies, and they want to make sure that you are factorable as a broker, that you have enough credit and you are credit worthy and your rating is good enough. As a new broker, you're going to have what's called an N as in Nancy, N rating. That means you're brand new, your authority is less than 1 year old. So it's more of a challenge to get carriers because they're of their factory companies to give you an opportunity, but there's ways around that, right? But I just want you to be aware of the possibility and the potential of that happening.
Hey, Charles.
Yes.
I wanted to talk to you about that. By the way, man, good content. Appreciate it. As far as so I'm about to, next week, I made this flyer. I'm about to hit, my goal is to hit at least 10 shippers up a day. I don't care if they close the door. I'm going into the actual warehouse, bringing a flyer, telling them what I do. But I wanted to ask you, I've heard some people that, as far as with the factoring companies, some people would pay free time to get that particular carrier. I guess once they got it set up with the shipper, then they would look for carriers and to get that carrier to come on. Because like you say, you don't have no credibility, but the credibility, I think one person was telling me he was just paying the carriers himself, and then he had a relationship with the factoring company and just got reimbursed like that. Have you heard of that? People doing that? Is that something that's can be a strategy, I guess, if you have the funds to do that, maybe like a line of credit or something?
I mean, if you have the funds, yes, but if you have a factory company yourself as a broker too, you can see if your factory company is willing to work with the carriers as well. But yes, if you have the line of credit, then and you have the, to float paying that carrier to work with you, a few times, and then before they bring their factory company in to allow them to work with you, then sure,
Yeah, because I was just looking at the credibility of like building it up real quick. If you get some carriers and say like you, because I've called carriers and it was like, well, can you front this load? And I didn't really know as much what they were talking about. I kind of got an idea now when I talk back to a carrier, like if they have their own factoring company, maybe I could, depending on how much it is, pay for the load and then get reimbursed or whatever, or have factoring companies in different areas or relationships with them where I done built that up. And then I can get the carrier to kind of fill out, give me some type of referral or recommendation where I can start building up my credibility as a freight broker. I don't exactly know the steps, but I know it can be done in that way, right?
Correct. And if you're going into facility, you said Dayton, Ohio?
No, I'm in Louisiana.
Oh, you said Louisiana. I thought you said, okay. So yeah, if you're going into the facilities, I would take some materials, take some donuts or something that you're giving as well. If you're going in to speak to a logistics person, a logistics manager, a shipping manager, warehouse manager, whoever, someone who's in charge of the movement of the freight, right? You're going to probably come across the gatekeeper, someone at the front desk who's going to try to either divert you away from getting to that person. But, if you happen to get past the gatekeeper and get to that person, with some donuts, some pens, your materials, of course, you want to come in. The important thing you want to come in is with your broker shipper packet, right? So if anything, so the broker shipper packet and the broker carrier packet, the contents of those contains, in the case of the broker shipper packet, contains the broker shipper agreement, along with the other things that you need to have as a broker when you're presenting to a shipper. So if you're presenting something to me as a broker to a shipper, as a shipper, what would I want to see in your packet besides the broker carrier agreement? And I'm going to go to it right here in our back office. For those of you who are.
I know Raycon is one of the biggest ones, right?
No, so the Raycon is not in the packet. The Raycon is produced. So once you get contracted with a shipper, and the shipper gives you a load tender that you did a lane quote on, a load tender or a target rate, and you got approved, and then now you got a tender for that lane that you got approved on, either through a lane quote or target rate acceptance. Then you, as the broker, you funnel that load tender through your TMS system to produce what's called a rate confirmation for the carrier. Because the numbers on the load tender, let's say the shipper gave you a load tender for $5,000, and let's say you as a broker, your margin is 20%. You want to make 20% off of every load every tender, I should say, that the shipper provides. So 20% of $5,000 is how much, guys? What's 20% times 5,000? $1,000. So if you're going to take 20% off of every load, and you just got a $5,000 load tender, then when you make that rate confirmation, the load tender is 5,000, but the rate confirmation to the carrier is how much?
4,000.
4,000. It's 5,000. It's 5,000, and you're taking your $1,000 out. So you're gonna sell the load to the carrier for $4,000. So now when the carrier delivers and they turn in the BOL and the proof of delivery and all the invoice and stuff, you're going to invoice the shipper, your customer, for how much?
5,000.
5,000.
5,000. There you go. Ding, 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 ding. That's how it works. That's, you know what you just described? You just described brokering. You just described brokering. You get a load tender from the shipper for $5,000. You broker it to the carrier minus your margin, whatever that is, 15 to 20%, in the form of a rate confirmation for the difference of your margin from that load tender. And then when the carrier delivers and all the processes goes through in the brokering process, you onboard the carrier with a carrier packet and you get them approved for your brokerage, everything that's involved in that. At the end of that journey, when they deliver and get the POD, the clean BOL or the POD, proof of delivery, and any other invoices, you're going to pay them after you invoice the shipper for $5,000. Shipper's going to pay you $5,000. You're going to pay the carrier $4,000, and you keep the change. Now you do that quicker because you, as a broker, of course, you have a factory company, so it happens quicker, right? So as soon as the carrier delivers and sends the POD to you, you're gonna, funnel that through your factory company. The factory company is going to pay you, and then at a percentage, because they're giving you money up front, but they're charging for that service. And then the factory company is going to get the rest of the monies from the shippers, but they've already paid you to pay the carrier, and you got your $1,000. So it's an intertwined kind of a ecosystem, if you will, but that's how it works. So Cecil mentioned rate confirmation. The rate confirmation is not in the packet that when you first get on with a shipper. That is not in the packet. That is part of the life cycle of the movement of the freight and how the paperwork is generated. So in the packet, go ahead, Jeff, you got your hand up.
Yeah, really quick. You just said something very interesting. You said that once we get that rate confirmation, the low tender from the shipper, we should be putting it into our TMS system. What about if we do not have a TMS system yet?
Then you would just do it. Then you would do it manually. You would produce a rate I had a person who, for about 6 months, didn't have a TMS system. They got a load tender piece of paper attached to an email from the shipper, and they created either in QuickBooks or some kind of software outside of a TMS system, some kind of Word software spreadsheet that had the ability to create some kind of invoice or something that relates to an invoice or a rate confirmation.
So we could use like a PayPal or Square to create that invoice, you're saying, or am I incorrect?
I wouldn't recommend PayPal or Square. Our QuickBooks Online is probably more because it's attached to your banking system.
Right.
More so than PayPal. PayPal or Square is attached to your bank, your business accounts, but QuickBooks Online is a better, or Microsoft 365. So, okay, but yeah, you can do it without a TMS system. I highly recommend at least a basic TMS system, which is Ascend. Let's open that up for you.
So I know Ascend has two features. It has the free feature, I think it is, and then they have the upgraded that's like $69. Are you saying the free feature I could use that to create that?
The free one is, I don't think the free one has the ability to create the rate confirmation from the load tender. You would probably have to upgrade to get the full-blown subscription in order to utilize all of the efficient services that's necessary in that life cycle of that movement of the documents.
Got it.
All right.
Hi, Charles. This is Kwanzaa. I know you're going through the TMS system right now. Just a quick question going back to the end rating for the new brokers for the 0 to 1 years for the new brokerages. How are we building that credit? Is it just the amount of loads that we are taking so that we're able to build up that credit so that we can get out of that end rating?
Right.
In that 1 year?
Right. over time. And then the different loads you move with the carriers. And then you build it up through, like, sometimes you can do it through like what's called net 30 accounts, where you build your business credit and your broker credit up. Through the load boards, you can build it up, broker ratings. Through the load boards, you can build it up till you contact the broker load boards, because a lot of those ratings are posted on the load board. So when a carrier looks at your load on the load board, the brokers, the load boards are posting your ratings, and the carriers see that. So they decide whether they're going to contact you or not. Now, over time, as you moving loads with carriers, then you reach out to the load boards and say, hey, you're trying to get your rating up. So now the load board people will probably contact the carriers and say, well, how was your experience with this broker? So on and so forth. So you just added an extra positive notch to your experience as a broker, which can affect your rating as well. So
okay. And then as brokers, is maybe having a survey for those carriers that work with us, is that something that we need?
That
or would you recommend
is what you just described, the survey thing. That is what the load board would do for you. So if you got a subscription,
okay.
You got a subscription to a load board and you're posting loads on there, and carriers are calling you for those loads, and they're running those loads effectively to build your rating up. And because it's mainly, the rating is mainly funneled through the load boards, because that's where the carriers are going to see your rating. When they go to a load board looking for a load, they're going to see who the broker that posted that load, and then they're going to look at the features of the load board and say, okay, well, what's this broker's rating? And then they're going to look at the rating and say, he has an N rating because he's new, or he has an A or B rating because he's been, every carrier that runs with them, they're satisfied with he pays on time, he pays for detention, we can communicate with them, he does everything, he's a good broker, which is an oxymoron, but he's a good broker, right? So,
Okay.
yeah. So, yeah. And that's the virtual survey, if you will, that you just mentioned.
Right,
It's funneled through the load boards, because the load boards are utilizing the carriers and the brokers.
Right. Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. So back to the packet types in your back office infrastructure. So when you're communicating with a shipper, so after you've done the OP1 form, you got your broker license and everything. We've been through that process just now. Now you're developing your back office infrastructure as a professional brokerage, right? You want to have the paperwork already set up. So when you're ready to go after shippers and when you're ready to go after carriers, you could present them with the documentation that qualifies for them or them, right? So on the shipper broker relationship, you have a broker shipper packet. The broker shipper packet contains the broker shipper agreement. And this is a template in our back office. For those of you, how many of you in here are not students, are not enrolled in the Freight Broker 101? You guys are just in here as a guest or in a seminar. Just either put your hand up, say something, smoke signals, pigeon, something, right? So everyone in here is a member of Freight Broker 101. You are enrolled. So if you are not enrolled, you will not see this. You will not have access to this, but I'm showing you what it looks like. This is an example of a broker shipper agreement. This is a very good one. And this is a template where people can use to formulate. This one's 7 pages. That's just pretty standard. 7 pages between the broker and the shippers. It's the contract, if you will, between the broker and the shipper to get officially set up to start doing business. The broker shipper agreement. Okay. And that's just one of the contents in the broker shipper packet. Contains the agreement, and it also contains your broker license. So if I'm sending a packet to a shipper, I want the shipper to know that I am legally a broker. Well, what tells people that you are legally a broker? Your license, your broker license that you just received when you filled out the OP1 form and you did all this other stuff, right? So your broker authority, right here, broker of property, except household goods, right? A broker arranging for transportation of freight, except household, so a broker. What also tells that you are a broker? Well, you have a bond now. BMC 84, this is that. This is what the BMC 84 looks like, the form, or the BMC 85, whichever one you submitted when you got your insurance as a broker, which is the bond, in your case, the $75,000 bond that you are required to have as a freight broker. Okay, So one of those two will be in the packet. Most cases, it'll be the BMC 84, which is the surety bond, because that's based off your credit, and there's a certain range you pay, a percentage of the $75,000 annually to maintain that $75,000 coverage for the bond. The purpose of the bond is to show financial responsibility or to cover the shipper or the carrier in case the brokers act unethically and irresponsible financially, right? They do something wrong, like a broker doesn't pay a carrier. Carrier can file a claim against the bond company steps in and investigates the claimant. If the claimant is correct, the carrier who filed the claim against the broker, then the bond company will pay them whatever they were awarded and then go after the broker and say, hey man, you were wrong in this, you have to pay us, okay? That's why the bond is in place. It is to protect the customers of the broker, which is the shippers and the carriers. Okay, just so I just want to make sure I'm breaking everything down to its common denominator. So you guys will know exactly, not just know that you have to have it, but know why you have to have it, why it's what it's there for and why you need it. Okay. Also what's in the broker shipper packet is your W-9. As a broker, you are a business, so you want to show your EIN number attached to your brokerage. Okay. And if you have extra insurance outside of the bond, in most cases, sometimes brokers get like contingent cargo. Then they would put that in there. They have extra. That's showing the shipper that you have extra skin in the game, that you're providing extra insurance on top of the bond. Okay. It's not a requirement, but some shippers look for it. Okay. And then a credit application from your factoring company, the broker's factoring company, because you also run the credit check on the shippers to make sure that they are factorable. You know, some shippers are not factorable. Their days to pay may be further than what the factoring company would want it to be, 90 days, you know, days to pay 90 days out. A factoring company don't want to wait 90 days. They're going to tell you that, look, they're not factorable. We cannot work with them. Sorry, you got to get somebody else. Okay. So I need to move this image up. It's kind of down.
Excuse me, Charles, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Okay, we're discussing carriers, like moving loads for carriers, but can we, finding loads for carriers, but can we use owner operators also?
Well, carriers, owner operator, truck drivers, I like to use all of them in the same term. So what I mean by carriers, truckers, and owner operators is someone who has their own truck and trailer, they own it, and they have their own authority, their DOT and MC. Those are the ones that we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. I was getting it mixed up. Okay, I got
Right.
you now.
Okay, those are the ones that we're targeting. People who own their truck and trailers, and they have their own MC and DOT. They're out here on the road, either small fleets or single owner operators who have their own truck and trailers.
That's what I was talking about, single owner operators. I want to know, could we also, okay.
You can do them. You can do trucking companies. You can broker the truck, you can broker the trucking company. You may have freight from a shipper, a whole lot of freight from a shipper, and then you go and you need a lot of truck capacity. So you would rather, instead of dealing with one owner operator with one truck and trailer and his own authority, what if you go after a trucking company who has about 20 assets, 20 trucks and trailers?
That's what I was asking. Is it kind of iffy dealing with an individual that may only own like one or two trucks? I get it now.
It depends on the relationship. So
okay.
I would target the owner operators, the trucking companies, as you need the truck capacity to cover the freight that you got from your shipper. So if you just procured a shipper who has 20 shipments a week, which would it be better for you to target? Someone who has 10 assets or someone who's just one owner operator, one truck and trailer?
The individual with the 10 assets.
Because you're meeting that capacity of your shipper a little bit quicker with someone who has the more assets, the better, right?
Perfect.
There you go. Okay, so now that was the broker shipper packet. Contained the broker shipper agreement, a copy of your authority, your broker authority, a copy of your bond showing that you have bond coverage, contingent cargo if you have extra insurance, your credit application, and your W-9. That'll be the minimum that you could put in your broker packet to send to the shipper to fill out, and they're going to fill out the credit application and the broker agreement to send back to you, because the credit application goes to your factory company, so they can run a credit check on that shipper. That's one side of your broker responsibility. What about the other side? What about your broker carrier packet? That was the broker shipper packet. But the broker carrier packet contains also the broker carrier agreement, just like the broker shipper packet contained the broker shipper agreement. So here is the broker carrier agreement, what it looks like, an example of one that we have in our back office. So if you are a member, you have access to this, but if you are not, you're just going to see it, right? Unless you, and if you decide to enroll, if you are a guest, that's fine. But we go through these things very thoroughly in detail so that you can understand clearly. So when you begin the process of being a broker, you will have an overview. And this is just the basic level stuff. We haven't even talked about the advanced stuff. Well, not advanced, but a little bit more intermediate stuff. But this is the basic stuff is very important for one main reason among many. But the main reason is you need to establish a solid foundation and overview understanding of brokering before you jump out there and go after shippers and carriers. You need to understand the basics and understand what steps are involved in all that stuff. So what better way to do that than to very thoroughly explain it to you in the way that you can understand it, okay? So in the broker carrier packet, it contains, this is what you as a broker send to the carrier to fill out and return to you so that you can do what's called onboard or set up that carrier as an approved carrier for your brokerage, right? So when you sent the broker shipper packet to the shipper, they filled it out to get contracted with you as a brokerage. Now the broker carrier packet is filled out by the carrier to get onboarded so the carrier can get onboarded and approved, okay? That's the difference. So the broker carrier packet contains the broker carrier agreement, the carrier profile, and I don't know why this is offline, but the carrier profile, a copy of the carrier's authority, motor carrier authority, because you need to see that the carrier is authorized to move freight. They are a common carrier of property except household goods. So now the carrier is proving to you, like you proved to the shipper, that you are who you say you are when you said you were a broker. You had a broker authority, you had a bond, you had all the qualifiers of a broker. Now, when you send the broker carrier packet to the carrier, they are proving to you that they are a carrier. They have a motor carrier authority. They're sending you a copy of that. They're sending you a copy of their certificate of insurance. They're saying that they have insurance, which is cargo and liability. They're sending you a W-9, and they're sending you their notice of assignment. So they're proving to you that they are a carrier so that you can approve them as an approved carrier in your network. See how that works? Everybody follows that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so any final questions? We're winding down a little bit here. We can wind down a little bit. I don't want to keep you guys too long. Mr. Nelson, hey, what's up, brother? Mr. Nelson has his hand up.
Pretty good, Charles. You definitely have to address the certificate of insurance.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. You want to address it as far as the certificate holders portion, or the from the broker carrier, the broker carrier relationship side? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, from the broker carrier packet. You definitely need to address the certificate of insurance, because anytime that carrier sends you a copy of his certificate of insurance, you want to be made certificate holder on it. In other words, you're going to call the insurance company, tell them that you've got this carrier, give him his MC number, his DOT number, and tell him that he's going to move a load for you. But you need to be made the certificate holder on it, which means that it gives you the ability to hold his insurance in the event that he has a claims damage. And if he has a claims damage, if you're the certificate holder, then you're going to be able to go to your claim specialist and say, hey, I've got the certificate on this. I am the holder, and I need to make sure that this claim gets paid basically first off of his insurance. If you fail to get that that certificate holder, that certificate changed over to where you're the certificate holder, he can go out there and have a damage or something, and then now it's left up to the shipper to try to get its money directly from the carrier. And 9 times out of 10, he's not going to waste his time trying to get his money from the carrier for the simple reason it's a complicated and complex ordeal. So if you've got insurance as a broker, he's going to come after you because he feels like he can get it quicker from you than he can from the carrier. So whatever you do, always be made certificate holder on that insurance.
And a quick question on that, the certificate holder, in your experience, is it relatively easy to say, hey, I want to be the certificate holder, or is there any pushback?
No, there's not any pushback. No, what you
Okay,
basically
so-
do is you call his insurance company and you tell him that he's under load for you. He's going to haul load for you.
Okay.
Give the insurance company its MC number. Tell them to send him a copy stating that you're going to be made the certificate holder. Have them CC you a copy. Therefore,
Okay.
he's got a copy notifying him that you've been made a certificate holder, and you have a copy. And the carriers won't push back on it. It gets done to them all the time.
Okay.
And right here on the
Thank you.
screen, I'm showing my screen the certificate of insurance. At the bottom left, you see the box that says certificate holder. This is where the insurance agent for that policy will put your broker, ABC brokerage, 123 Main Street, anywhere USA in there, and then they will send you a copy of that, and they may even CC the carrier in that process, or the carrier's dispatcher if they're dispatching a load. So, and it's as simple as that. Now, the one thing they may do is the one pushback minor. They may say, if you call them and you say, hey, I'm ABC brokerage, I got one of your policy holders under a load, I need to be made a certificate holder. They probably want to verify that by asking you for the policy number. And then they may even put you on hold and call the carrier. Possibly. That rarely happens, but don't get upset because you got to look at it from their perspective. They're just doing their job. They get a lot of calls. This is a commercial insurance company, right? Large commercial insurance companies. So you can imagine how many calls they would get. So they need to verify via the policy number that this is one of their clients, and then call to confirm that. So that's just a procedure that they do. It's rarely done, but it's a potential to happen. So just take it with a grain of salt as a normal operating procedure on their side. That's what they normally do as agents anyway. So getting past that, the only thing they're going to ask you for, what's the name of your brokerage, city, state, zip, and who do I send it to? Send it to me as my brokerage at info@abcbrokerage.com, and you can CC the carrier so they can see that they have it. Like Mr. Nelson says, yeah, so the claim will go against their policy first because you are the holder, and then outside of that, and the shippers probably will come after you because you are contracted with the shippers with the broker-shipper agreement as opposed to going after the carrier. So, but that's the process. Okay. You good? Any other questions? And for those who are in here as guests, and I thought I let someone in, that someone came in the seminar training. I'm trying to see if that person made it in. I sent the link via my email to Sharon. So Sharon, are you in here? Oh yeah, Ms. Holmes, there you go. Okay, yeah. So you're the seminar person. Okay, yeah, because it was supposed to be Tuesday, but you're here tonight. Okay, cool. So do you have any questions or anyone?
No, Charles, I'm good. I follow. I got the information and read through it. I follow what we got going on.
Okay, have you started the app?
I'm ready to become an ongoing training.
you're trying to get on our training.
Yeah, the ongoing training,
Okay. Yeah, so that was my next statement. If anyone in here who is not enrolled in the ongoing training, if you took the seminar, and we verify that part, like Ms. Holmes, she registered for the seminar a couple of days ago. I deduct the seminar cost from the price of the ongoing training and then invoice you the difference. Okay. So the ongoing training is $5.99. She paid for the seminar, which is $199. So I'm just going to invoice her for the difference. If you have taken the seminar training or not, if you do want to enroll, then you just either come to the website or send me an email, which I'm going to put my phone number in the chat and my email. And so we like to, this barely scratched the surface of freight brokering, but we like to go into a lot of details so you guys can get it. You know, a lot of people give you, and I don't want to speak negatively about other trainings, and that's not what I do, but a lot of people give you overview and high-end stuff, but I like to break things down because when I went through certain trainings years ago, not just freight brokering and other things, but people would just give me things and I would hear terms and I had no idea what they were talking about, nor did they tell me, nor did they break it down. So as an instructor, I feel it's my job when I recognize that there are certain terms that I know or that I feel that you guys don't understand, I'm going to go into more details until I realize that you guys get it. And then we move on. So I don't believe in leaving people behind as far as not knowing something. And I always let you guys know, if you have a question, please ask it. We can break it down even further. So with the OP1 application, I hope that everybody understood that process. It's a very easy process from a broker side. You skip a lot of the sections because a lot of the sections apply to the motor carrier and to household goods. You just answer the question of, you know, filling out the application part in step 1, step 2, you just answer the type of authority, and then you skip through steps 3 through 6, and then you went straight to the oath and signed the thing, right? That's pretty much it. And then after that, your application gets filed with the FMCSA, you pay the $300, you get the grant letter, it gets submitted in the registry, and then you have to move on to your bond and your process agent forms by those agencies to be submitted to the FMCSA for you to be approved. And then you get your broker license. And that's up to 90 days, according to the FMCSA. We literally just read through the FMCSA's version of the OP1 document. So if anyone tells you anything else other than what you just heard tonight, it is not true. We just literally went through the updated OP-1 form that the FMCSA, that was the latest version of it. And we went through it line by line. So I don't know if anybody's telling you something else, I don't know what to tell them. So that was literally what you do, and it explained everything in detail. So, but if you are interested in coming into our family, if you will, it's not just training, it's more family. We try to help each other because there are people in here, there are people in our trainings tonight who haven't even, they're not even here tonight, but they're like international brokers. People are in here are at different levels. Some people are starting to be brokers, filling out the OP1 form. Some people have filled it out, waiting to be approved and get their license. Some people are brokers who are active, waiting to get shippers. Some people are brokers who have shippers, waiting to get carriers and move loads. So everybody's at different stages in the process, so we can pick each other's brain for information. Okay, well, when you were here, what did you do? I'm right here now. I'm trying to get to where you are now. What did you do to get there, right? And then you just get the information from them. And that's what we like to do. So no broker left behind, like no child left behind, no broker left behind. That's what I believe, no broker left behind. And we try to do it the right way. People nowadays, the transportation industry, you mentioned the word broker, it's like a bad taste in people's mouths, right? We wanna try to do it the right way. We try to do it honor, integrity, communication, respect, you know, all the good accolades that we feel that a logistics provider, someone who arranges for the transportation of freight, a freight broker can provide. So, yeah, that's what we like to do. So my email is in the chat. Make sure you guys write it down. My cell number is in there if you have a call. For those of you who are not members in the training and you're interested, just let me know and we'll go from there. For those of you who are members who have not joined our private Facebook group, Freight Broker One-on-One members only group, and you are a enrolled member, join that group, because outside of the live trainings, we have that social platform to go with. So, Mr. Nelson.
Yes, sir. Charles, before we leave, can we talk about a little bit about shippers? And because that's probably one of the biggest phases that happen with dealing with freight brokering. Just a tad.
Okay, go ahead, sir. I'll let you lead that. You're the man. I'm just visiting.
No, I'm just asking because I mean, a lot of times, you know, when we speak of freight brokering, we have to come to the conclusion that eventually we're going to have to pick up the telephone and we're going to have to call somebody and convince them to give us their freight. Right.
And that's one method. Yes, that's one of several ways to go after one of your customers. It's just a shipper. You have the other customer carriers, but cold calling, LinkedIn, social media, perhaps visiting the facilities. If you set up an appointment, you visit the facilities and then you speak to the person directly. So yeah, there's several ways to do it, but Mr. Nelson referred to as cold calling, getting on the phone, speaking. And what happens if you get pushback, right? You know, certain things. Hey, I'm looking to move freight. I'm with ABC Freight Brokers. Oh, we already got brokers. We got enough brokers. Thank you. Okay, then, so if you just hang up after that, then you just lost that battle. But what do you say after that? We got freight. Okay, so in the times where those brokers, carriers fall off of loads and you need emergency, you need some help, we can be reached, right? Or something to that effect. You know, what do you do in those situations? You know, how do you handle those situations, Mr. Shipper, when your brokers that you already have, their carriers fall off on your loads and you need those loads moved. Now they become hot loads because they had to get there yesterday. You know, maybe we can be the fallback emergency broker that you call to, and or maybe I can reach out to you in a few months to see where you are, or what do you look for in a logistics provider? And are the ones you have providing that service? And if they are not, can we have an opportunity? You know, or any of those kind of things, certain things that you say, you know. You want to add to that, Mr. Nelson?
You pretty much hit the nail on the head. I mean, at times it's not going to per se be that simple, because everybody that you pick up the phone and make a phone call to, if you happen to have a conversation, you may get 900 different attitudes and different personalities when you do that. You know, one thing about calling customers and cold calling customers, you can't have thin skin, because you'll find that your conversations in the Northeast will be a whole lot different from your conversations out west, or your conversations in the Midwest, or your conversations down south. You know, it's just a different perspective when people answer the phone. You know, one customer may talk crazy to you and ask you why, and that's so in blankety blank you calling them. and then you've got that other customer who's quote unquote college educated, and he is a freight logistics manager, and he wants to know all of your analytics and everything else before he even have a conversation with you. And then you got that good old boy who grew up in the city, started working at the warehouse when he was 12 years old, and he's just as down to earth as he can be. So I mean, you deal with different types of customers when you're trying to solicit freight from them. So you have to be prepared and be able to work within the confines of what people throw at you when you do get them on the phone.
Exactly. Very true. So you have to, so if you come from a sales or a call center type background, this transition should be a little bit easier for you, because you dealt with different personalities. You dealt with different, you know, mentalities and different dispositions of people. You dealt with different tones and voices, and you understand pushback, and you understand how to respond to certain replies to your inquiries. So if you come from a call center, sales type background, you should be fine. as far as the cold calling type or cold calling category of going after shippers is concerned, right? If you come from a call center or sales background, you should be fine. If you come from just a sales background overall, you should be fine in every of the types of categories of going after shippers, whether you visit the facilities themselves, you decide what your niche is going to be and where you're going to target. You want to target locally, right? So you can, if you're able to physically drive to facilities, set up appointment times to speak to shippers, and then go in with Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, but present some kind of gift, kind of break the ice, if you will, right? So, and then sell yourself, because that's what you're doing. You are providing a service. There is something that you figured out that they need, or that you have to convince them that they might not even know that they need your service. So, Kwanzaa.
Yeah, when you were talking about going locally to visit different maybe shipping companies, the carriers, should we be presenting some type of flyer, or should we just try to get in there and say, hey, we are DKL freight brokerage firm. Here's our card. We're interested in setting up an appointment to talk to somebody about, carrying some loads. I mean, how should we go about that when we are actually physically going to the businesses? Should we call first, or should we just go and say, hey, this is who we are, and bring something that says, who it is we are, and we'd like to set up an appointment? How should we go about that?
Well, if you want to go without calling, you have a 50-50 chance of getting through, because you're going to present them with the shock treatment, right? They're not expecting you. But if you call and set an appointment, and the date, now it's in their calendar, they've prepared, so they know that they got an appointment with someone to come in and speak to them about freight brokerage, especially if you've spoken to them on the phone and they actually have a need for brokerage because they have either a trucking capacity or a rate problem from their shipping perspective. Then they're willing to talk to you, because your conversation on the phone was such a good conversation that you extended it into an appointment, right?
Okay.
So I would suggest, and then, doing the appointment part. But if you're just driving around and you got some broker shipper package with you already prepared for DKL freight brokerage, and also you're the other person. Okay, I know I speak to Marsha.
I'm the other.
So you're Kwanzaa. Okay, Marsha.
Yes,
me and Marsha been on the phone. I was like, okay, yeah, I got to get off the phone, Marsha, because we've been. So we went through. Yeah, Marsha and I went through the whole OP1 form. She'll tell you. I think she told you.
Yeah, she did.
I told her.
She did.
Yeah, we did a one-on-one, and we just. Zip.
It was awesome. It was. Thank you.
Definitely much appreciated, for sure.
Yeah, because we just wanted to make sure everything was ironed out, because remember, if you do that incorrectly, it's going to get kicked back. You got to pay $300 again.
Exactly, right? What we didn't want.
Non-refundable.
Yeah, so thank you for that.
So yes, no problem. That's what I'm here for. So, yeah, but as far as
Charles,
yes.
Can I say this? When I submitted it again, I got to talking with the gentleman. He said, now you do have a window where you can go back in and change some things if you had to before it was processed, and they wouldn't charge you the $300.
That's when you submit the OP1 form?
The authority, the OP1, if you can get back before they process it. He was just going over everything.
So, okay, so he said that, but did he say what the window was? Like, was it a few days? Was it a week? I mean, what did he say the window was? So that's good to know. So what she's referring to, she actually called, this is Marsha and Kwanzaa from DKL Freight Brokerage. They are applying through the OP1 form right now as we speak to be an active brokerage. So, and Marsha called a representative at FMCSA. Are you referring to the person at FMCSA?
Yes, they're very patient with you. Very, very patient.
Okay, so now that's good. That's good news. They just got to share what that window is, so we will know. We can share with our network, so we have an idea and put us at an advantage. So when we file and we say, "Oh man, I forgot to cross my I's or cross my T's or dot my I's," let me go back in here and make this editing change before they actually submit it for processing, not for approval, but for processing. So
yeah, for processing.
Whatever that window is, 3 days, 24 hours before it expires, and you got to turn around and pay $300 again. So yeah, But back to Kwanzaa, as far as the shippers, yeah, you wanna be as prepared as possible as far as like, if you have an appointment and you actually go talk to the people, I would have, obviously the broker carrier packet prepared for your company, DKL Freight Brokerage.
Okay.
Have Krispy Kreme, Dunkin' Donuts, maybe pins, flyers, because again, you're selling yourself.
Sure.
And you're convincing them that they need your service in order to run their company more efficiently.
Right. Okay.
If I can help you increase your bottom line and decrease your turnaround time and layover time and lag time for your freight getting delivered, would you be willing to work with us?
Okay.
Or would you be willing to at least hear what I have to offer? Of course, any shipper in his right mind, if you come to me and say, I can reduce your, increase your profits or increase your margins or revenue by 10 to 20% in the first quarter or the second quarter, you're talking, those terms, or decrease your lack of productivity or lack of, delivery times and things like that in the first quarter or in the first few weeks, would you be willing to hear what I have to offer? And then you present yourself. This is what we have. This is what we do. This is how we broker loads, and we take the stress off of your company. You give us the tenders, and we take it from there, and you don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Our claim filing rates is down to less than 1/2%. We rarely get claims on our carriers. Our carriers deliver on time. We do inspections on our carriers routinely, and we're transparent with that data so that you can see, so that you can rest assured that our carriers are safety minded, things of that nature. You want to reinsure them of all the worries. You have to first understand all the worries that a shipper can possibly have when it comes to them moving their freight. And then you decide, how can you as a broker, alleviate those worries? And you put that in the form of a presentation when you go in front of them. And you do the same thing over the phone when you're talking to them. So now the question becomes, well, what are the worries? You got to start itemizing that.
Sure.
So put yourself in the mind of a shipper. If I have $1 million worth of freight and I'm moving out X amount of loads per week, 20 loads a week, and I got different customers routed all over the country in different zones in different states, so I need to, and that's logistics, right? So how do I manage that? I can't manage it all. I need to broker this out. I got a capacity problem. I got a lot of freight, but I don't have enough trucks to get to my customers in a timely fashion. So I have to rely either on a large trucking company or a freight broker in order to do that. So now we're thinking as entrepreneurs, and we're thinking of how do we solve the problem for the shippers. So
we're looking at like asking them when we do get an initial meeting is like, what are their pain points? Also selling ourselves as the brokerage firm that's going to move this freight, but we definitely want to find out what are your pain points, and this is what we can do to solve those pain points. So the other question I have is, do you feel it would be important for us when we get that face-to-face meeting to, we'll say, because we're brand new, we haven't done anything yet, but once we get a few loads, do you think it would be important for us to present any type of like analytics for these meetings when we're meeting with other companies so that we can get their business?
Right. So if you met with one company, then you go into the second company, you're saying analytics from the experience from the first company?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, Charles? I didn't hear that.
So you saying analytics as it relates to, you saying from different companies?
Yeah. So say we've, maybe we've only done like, 15 loads. But just, again, going back to the TMS, those boards with the surveys and just our ratings, and we got, these loads here in this destination at this time, say we were early or what have you. Are those things that we should be presenting to those potential clients that we would have? Or
Sure. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt whatsoever. That actually icing on the cake, the cherry on top. If you can show them that the previous loads that you've moved with other companies, these are the analytics on it, these are the performance or what they call metrics on it, then yes, definitely.
All right, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys, 8 o'clock on the dot. I love it. Military on time. Sir, yes, sir. So, good. Again, for those who are interested in enrolling, send me an email. If you are in the seminar, you want to roll over. I think only one person was in the seminar. That's Ms. Holmes. And if you want to roll over Ms. Holmes, I can send you an invoice of the difference. But please send me an email. I have to have for my business a paper trail of documentation notating that the person wants to transfer from seminar to ongoing. Okay.
Okay.
And if those of you who are guests in here and want to enroll in the training, send me an email, or you can just go to the website. If you are a guest, because Ms. Holmes, she did the registration seminar, but if you are a guest in here, you want to enroll, just go to the website and enroll from the website under Freight 599 Freight Broker 101 training, single member. It'll take you to a PayPal page. If you do not have a PayPal account, then you can also pay as a guest with a credit or debit card, which it says right here at the bottom, the little gray box, because most people may not have a PayPal account. If you have a PayPal account, they just want you to log in and pay from your PayPal account. Otherwise, just pay with a credit or debit card. So, all right. All right, guys. So the next freight broker training will be Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look forward to seeing you, Ms. Holmes. If you decide to roll over, I will send you all the welcome information after that. Okay. All right, guys. Have a good night. Enjoy your weekend, and please be safe out here.
All right, thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh yeah, I need my DKL freight. I need my video testimonial, please.
We're coming with it.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Okay,
All right.
bye.